Sure, I need to make love. The rancher gave her what she wanted. Then his wife found out. The Montana sky burned white the morning Eliza Caldwell ran. She burst from a little church in Willow Bend, still wearing the white dress her father had paid for with Harlan Graves' money, veil snagging on sagebrush. Satin hem ripping on rocks she no longer felt. Behind her, the organ had stopped mid-note, and the groom, 58, thick-necked, smelling of whiskey and ownership, had roared her name like a curse. She did not look back. 10 miles of prairie lay between town, and the only place she could think to go, Luke Holston's ranch. When she was 9 and starving beside the trail, he had pressed half a biscuit and a strip of jerky into her small hands without a word. In a territory that had taught her kindness was weakness, that single silent act had lodged in her heart like a burr. Now, 22, lungs on fire, she stumbled across a south pasture and fell at the foot of the barn. The world tilted. Dust coated her tongue. She crawled the last yards on shredded knees until rough denim filled her vision and strong hands caught her before she kissed the dirt. Luke Holston stared down at the trembling bride in his yard as though a ghost had risen wearing lace. "Miss?" His voice cracked like old leather. She clutched his shirt with both fists. Tears cut channels through the dust on her cheeks. Please help me. They're coming." He saw the veil dragging behind her like a surrender flag, saw the terror in eyes the color of winter sky, and something inside his chest that had been dead 10 years gave one painful thump. "Easy now," he murmured, lifting her to her feet. "Breathe, darling. Just breathe." She couldn't. The words tumbled out between sobs. "I couldn't do it. I couldn't marry him. My father, he sold me. I'm payment for cards and whiskey. I ran. I didn't know where else." A faint plume of dust rose on the horizon. Riders. 5, maybe 6. Coming fast. Luke's jaw set. He had faced worse odds on the Cheyenne Road years ago, and still carried the scar across his ribs to prove it. He guided her behind him, one hand settling protectively at her waist. "Stay close," he said quietly. "Whatever comes, it meets me first." The riders thundered up in a storm of snorting horses and swirling dust. The leader, a tall man with a deputy's badge bought by Graves' money, tipped his hat with false courtesy. "Afternoon, Holston. We're retrieving a runaway bride. Step aside." Luke didn't move. "My land. My word is law here. State your business proper, or ride on." The deputy smiled without warmth. "Harlan Graves paid good money for that girl. Her daddy signed the paper. She's confused. We'll take her gentle." Luke felt Eliza's fingers twist into the back of his shirt. Her trembling traveled through cotton into his very bones. "Confused women don't run 10 miles in satin shoes till their feet bleed," Luke said. "She came to me. She stays till she says different." The youngest rider shifted nervously. "That's Luke Holston, boss. The Blackwell brothers." "I remember," the deputy snapped. His gaze flicked to Eliza, half hidden behind Luke's broad frame. "Last chance, Holston." Luke's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "You'll need more men and a better reason." Silence stretched, thin as fence wire pulled tight. A red-tailed hawk circled overhead. Finally, the deputy spat into the dust. "Suit yourselves. Graves won't forget this." He wheeled his horse. The others followed, hooves drumming away until only settling dust remained. Eliza sagged against Luke's back. He turned and caught her before her knees gave out entirely. "I stood for you," she whispered, wonder in her voice. "Why?" He brushed a twig from her hair with careful fingers. "Because somebody should have stood for you a long time ago." The sun was bleeding orange across the mountains when they stepped inside the ranch house. Luke lit the fire, poured coffee neither of them tasted, and listened while she told him everything. Her mother's grave, her father's losses, the cold weight of Harlan Graves' hand on her arm the night the bargain was struck. When the story ended, silence wrapped them like wool. The fire crackled. Outside, wind moaned around the eaves. Eliza sat on the braided rug, knees drawn up, wedding dress pulled around her like a wilted flower. She looked small and impossibly young. Luke crouched, elbows on his knees. "You're safe tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure the rest." She lifted her face. Tears shimmered but did not fall. All my life I've been told what I'm worth. Tonight I need to feel chosen, not owned. Her voice fell to the barest breath. Sure, I need to make love, not the kind they tried to force on me. The kind that lets a woman feel alive and chosen just once. The plea pierced him deeper than any bullet ever had. Luke's hands shook as he cupped her face. Eliza, you're half out of your mind with fear. I won't take advantage. You'd be giving, she whispered, giving me back the part of me they tried to steal. He searched her eyes and saw the truth. She was asking for tenderness, for proof the world still held gentleness. Slowly, reverently, he drew her into his arms. Sure, he echoed against her temple. Just let me hold you. They sank to the rug before the hearth. He held her as though she were made of spun glass and wildfire both. Her head rested over his heartbeat. His calloused fingers stroked her hair until trembling eased. When she turned her face up, he brushed his lips across her forehead, her closed eyelids, the corner of her mouth. Soft presses that asked nothing and promised everything. Minutes stretched into hours measured only by the pop of pine knots and the slowing of two hearts learning the same rhythm. She clung to him, breathing him in sun-cured cotton coffee, honest sweat. He memorized the weight of her in his arms, the silk of her hair against his throat, the way trust felt after 10 years of burying it. I thought this part of me died with my wife, he confessed into the firelight. Eliza lifted his hand, pressed a trembling kiss to his knuckles, then let it live again tonight. They never crossed a line into more than holding, whispering, and the quiet press of lips to brow and temple and wrist. Yet when sleep finally took her, curled against his chest beneath his old wool blanket, Luke knew he had just been loved more completely than in all his married years. Outside, the Montana stars kept watch. At first light came the creak of wagon wheels. Luke woke instantly, Eliza still asleep in the circle of his arms. He eased away, tucked the blanket around her, and stepped onto the porch with his rifle loose in his hand. A thin woman in a travel-worn bonnet climbed down from a rented buckboard. 10 years older, lines etched by regret, but unmistakable. Clara, his dead wife, walked toward him like a dream he'd stopped allowing himself. Luke, she said, voice cracking on his name. He couldn't speak. The rifle lowered of its own accord. Behind him the door opened. Eliza appeared, hair loose, wedding dress crease and dusty, eyes wide with fresh fear. Clara's gaze moved from Luke to the girl and back again. Something shattered quietly in her expression. I heard you kept to yourself, Clara whispered. I never thought you'd let anyone close again. Eliza stepped forward, chin high despite the tremor in her hands. Ma'am, whatever you think you saw. I saw my husband holding a woman the way he once held me, Clara said softly. I lost the right to mine a long time ago. Luke found his voice. Clara, why are you here? She laughed, a broken sound. Because the preacher took my youth and left me with nothing but regret. Because I'm tired and sick and have nowhere else on earth to go. Her eyes filled. I came to beg forgiveness, Luke, and to set you free proper, if you'll let me. Eliza's fingers found Luke's sleeve. I'll go, she said quickly. I never meant to take anything that wasn't mine to have. Luke looked from one woman to the other, from the past he had buried under a lie, to the future trembling beside him. Something fierce and clean rose in his chest. No more running, he said. He faced Clara fully. 10 years ago you left. I told the town you died, so no one would speak ill of you. I carried that shame alone, but I won't carry it another day. Clara's tears spilled over. I don't deserve your mercy. You deserve the truth, he said, and a chance to start clean. There's $500 in the bank under my name. Take it. Take the wagon. Go wherever you need to find peace. I forgive you, Clara. Be free. She stared, stunned, then pressed a hand to her mouth and nodded. Luke turned to Eliza, took both her hands. And you, Eliza Caldwell, you are not payment, not property, not a mistake. You are the bravest thing I've ever seen, and I aim to marry you proper, if you'll have an old rancher with too many scars and not enough pretty words. Her answer was to throw her arms around his neck and sob into his shoulder. Tears of a different kind this time. That Sunday, Luke Holston rode into Willow Bend with Eliza beside him in a simple calico dress he'd ordered from the catalog. He stood in the middle of Main Street and told the truth, every raw detail, to preachers, shopkeepers, and gaping onlookers alike. Some turned away. Most listened. A few shook his hand. Harlan Graves tried bluster until the sheriff, tired of bought badges, quietly suggested he leave the territory before sundown. By the time the cottonwoods turned gold, Luke and Eliza were married in the little church she'd once fled. She wore the same white dress, mended and pressed, veil fluttering like surrender turned to hope. Years later, folks still talk about the day Luke Holston chose truth over shame and love over fear. On quiet evenings, they sat together on the porch swing he'd built with his own hands. Eliza's head rested on his shoulder. His mother's plain gold band, never worn by Clara, glinted on her finger. Sometimes, when the stars came out bright as forgiveness, he would draw her close and whisper against her hair the words she had once given him in desperation, and he now returned his promise. "Should just let me hold you." And the Montana wind carried the words across the wide prairie like a benediction. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is love again out loud.